Welcome back, y'all. This is the Bluechip Breakdown, and I'm your host, Bull. Today, I just want to give y'all my thoughts after staying up all night, watching the film for our Tennessee Volunteers dominate NC State. Big time week 2 matchup. We won that one 51-10. And as always, y'all, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. So the first thing that I would like to do is just give y'all my 4 tiers of all the top college football teams up to this point in the season. Tier 1, I have us in Texas. Tier 2, I'm going to have UGA and Ohio State. Tier 3, I'm going to have Ole Miss, Alabama, and Missouri. Tier 4, we're going to have Miami, USC, and I hesitantly put Oregon into that mix. Very close games in the first 2 weeks. Maybe they were just kind of overlooking guys. They weren't fully focused. I could definitely see that, but they're very close to being down in that tier 5. And if they, continue to play like this, maybe even tier 6, I think there's a couple of other teams that might be knocking on the door that could maybe overtake Oregon. So what does all that mean? Well, it means that I look at our Volunteers as one of the top 2 teams in this entire country. I think that we proved that last night, playing up against a very good NC State team. Now, are they great? No. Could they make it to the playoffs? I think that in the ACC, it's possible. So let's talk about this team overall. The number one thing that I took away just from watching the game live and from watching the film is that the mindset, the mentality of this team is in the right place. It's championship caliber. We play bully ball. We really want to play to the echo of that whistle. We're flying around making plays. Maximum effort is what I'm seeing from every single body out there. It's like, this team just loves each other. They're fighting for and with one another on every single snap. I mean, in waves. Everybody who comes out onto the field is doing that. You absolutely need that moving forward. And then, too, I also love the way that the staff does a really good job of I would say mixing things up, showing some versatility. All week long, we talked about running that 12 personnel, which is just essentially playing offense with 2 tight ends. That's more of a heavier, like run set than what we have normally played up under Coach Heupel. But that's a way I've always felt like to beat that 3-3-5, just because you can pull those guys and, they get to the second and third levels, and you can create some huge running lanes for your running back. So the entire second half, y'all, I would say probably 85% of the time, we were in 12 personnel and we ran the ball down NC State's throats. We were very, very basic with our play calls. We probably only ran at most 10 different plays. So for us to show that dominance, in that sort of a set and just being that basic versus a power 4 team like NC State in their, in their home state, I think that that was a huge, huge statement for our Volunteers. Now, I was want to, focus on some individual position groups. We're going to go through each one quickly. Not going to go too deep into it, but I want to give a grade for all those groups. And we'll start off with the front 4 on defense because I think that they stole the show last night. And hopefully more of the media will start to talk about our defense, get a little bit of the, media attention off of Nico, just because I think that, it's good for him, but he doesn't need any more of that. I don't think that I don't think he shots away from it. I wouldn't say that he doesn't like it, but he's going to be happy for his teammates to get it. And also because they've put in so much work, I think that they all deserve some credit. And I'm going to kind of go back to what I was just talking about with the overall mindset of this team, with the way that we were prepared for this game, the way that we were dialed in and focused. It's so much time and work that has to go into it because these guys still have to go to class. Obviously, they have to practice, they have workouts, they have meetings, but they're doing stuff outside of that. And you can tell it's because we knew what NC State was trying to do on every single play. And again, man, we played really, really hard. So anyway, I would say that our front 4 on that defensive line, man, they played pretty much lights out. I mean, 13 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. We were in their backfield all day long. We were getting held. It wasn't always getting called. Looked very, very dominant. And I'm talking about from Leo to strong side DN, everything in between that. All of our tackles that came in. I mean, everyone that came in played very, very well. I was proud of them. The only thing that I will say that wasn't perfect would be lining up off sides. We can't have those types of penalties. And then also, it was a few times that our ends kind of got washed down. And, some of their schemes, I do think that NC State did a good job with their schemes, but also just really executing that. We're going to have to play better than that on the edges. And I'm sure that all of those things will be points of emphasis for our defensive line moving forward. So I would give them a solid A overall as a unit. But some of those guys played lights out. They played A plus. So I think that we're looking really, really good. Still some room for us to improve, and that's what you would expect early on in the season. And as Vol fans, you have to be happy about that because if we're this dominant this early on, imagine where we're going to be at come playoff time. We should be clicking on all cylinders. Now let's take it back to the second level with the linebackers. I think that they played very well. Also, if you look at how they played this weekend, last night versus last weekend versus UT Chat, I think that, man, we stepped up in some major ways. The run fits looked a whole lot better. We're playing a little bit more loose, especially Keenan Pili, who I think had, damn near perfect game outside of that, personal foul penalty that he got, which you're not too mad at him for, just because he kind of sent their tight end Justin Jolie flying, and I think that that was funny. But also, man, maybe he just couldn't tell if he was down, whatever. But you need for your guys to do that. It just goes back to that bully ball mindset that you need. It's okay to get a few of those every now and then, as long as it doesn't hinder hinder you from being able to play, especially Keenan Pili. So I was just happy that he didn't get tossed out of the game for that. And I don't think that it was necessarily intentional, but he's just a dog. He's just a warrior. So it just kind of showed through on that play. But again, I think that he played a pretty much perfect game outside of that. I cannot wait to break down the film of our defense just to show you him, several other players for the members on this channel. And also, while we're just talking about that, we would love to put a little something out for everyone else that is not a member of this channel, just to give you all a taste of what the members get. So let us know who you would like to see a film breakdown on from our game last night, or maybe what position group, whatever. We will try to get that out for y'all maybe by tomorrow, but don't, I'm not making any promises on that because I have a whole lot of work to get done. But again, thank y'all as members and everyone else that's liking, subscribing, sharing our videos. Thank y'all so much for all of the support. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Now, just kind of finishing up with the rest of the linebackers, I think that AC Arion Carter, he played well. He definitely played better than he did versus UT Chattanooga, but he still has to kind of work on not necessarily getting to his run fix, because I think he knows where to get to, but maybe how to get through the blocks, like the different angles and things to take with those blocks, how to kind of scrape over or scrape under some of the offensive linemen that are getting up to that second level. He wasn't always great there. Again, it was better than it was last weekend, so he is getting better. That's what you would expect and hope. Keep in mind, y'all, he's only really played linebacker for like, 2.5 seasons, maybe, yeah, I would say about 2.5 seasons, and that's dating all the way back to high school. So, I mean, he has a whole lot to learn. Missed half of last season, so he's getting a whole bunch of mental reps, but he's going to continue to get better. He's another one that I would say by playoff time, he's probably going to be, I would say, one of the best linebackers on this team is going to be him and Keenan Pili. Right now, I think that Keenan Pili and Jeremiah Telander might be our best two guys, just from top to bottom. I think that JT played beautifully. Now, again, he wasn't perfect either. He made a few mistakes, kind of missing some run fits, maybe scraping over, being a little bit too slow to get to his run fit. But I think that he's looking good. He knows where to get to, plays with his hair on fire. He does a better job of getting off blocks than Arion Carter does at this point in the game. Also, going back to AC, I want to point this out really quickly. He's got to do a better job of blitzing off of the edge and setting that strong edge. We kind of talked about our ends getting washed down on one play with Hollywood Smothers. There was a really nice lane. I want to say Jason Jenkins was playing it in, and then we see Arion Carter coming off of the edge. And Jason Jenkins gets washed down. He actually kind of gets pancaked. He was probably getting held, but they're not going to call that 9 times out of 10. And then we have AC coming off of the edge, trying to get to the quarterback, but he gets washed out a little bit too far outside. He's got to be able to recognize, run, kind of set that anchor, and not to go too far into all the details of the scheme, things like that. But just kind of pointing out that he's got to do a little bit better job in some instances. Also, man, we got to see Jalen Smith get some burn out there. He looked really good. I mean, he looked a lot better than what we saw from him in spring practice. So he is coming along, kind of like the same thing. I would say he's about on the same level of getting off blocks as maybe JT, but at the same time, he is choosing his holes incorrectly on, every now and then. But he is going to get better, and he has gotten better. I'd say that he improved from week 1 to week 2. So again, by the end of the season, those guys should be ready to rock and daggum roll. What's my overall grade, though? That's what y'all are waiting on. I would give them a solid A-, just because, again, it was better than it was last weekend, but we can still improve in some very small areas. So, just really, really proud of what they did out there last night. Now, let's talk about our secondary. And the first thing that I would like to do is just address Will Brooks, because I know some people said that I need to, tell him sorry for whatever reason. I'm not 100% sure on it. I think that people are misunderstanding what I was saying about Will Brooks. And it's not just Will Brooks that I called out, it's several players. And if we're just talking about safeties, we could talk about Andre Turrentine too. So number one, with Andre Turrentine, my knock on him was, will he be physical? I trust him in coverage versus, I would say the highest caliber of players that we're going to face throughout the entire season. And that includes playoffs, that includes in the national championship. And keep in mind, y'all, we have been thinking about the championship this entire time. The whole offseason, we felt like this was a team that could get there. Now I think more and more people are starting to buy into that. So that's our mindset. It's not about, they can play well versus NC State, who I think is a very good, Power 4 team. Or I wouldn't say very good. I would say that they are a good, solid Power 4 team. but they're not, the guys that we're going to face that are in those top 1 and 2 tiers that we mentioned at the start of this video. So that's what we're looking at. Can they play well in these different categories versus those types of teams? So with Andre Turrentine, it was, will you come down and be physical in the box? Everything that I've seen from him so far this season says that he will do that. He has come up in run support beautifully. He's filling his run lanes and all that. Excellent. So I love that, but I have to see it versus SEC teams before I will know that it's real. So still kind of holding out on that. Can he do it versus the teams that'll come up and smack you in the mouth? That's what I want to know from him. Now, as far as Will Brooks goes, I've said that, listen, he's a very good player. He knows what to do. He's great and great getting off blocks, great in run support, period. But my question has always been, will he be able to hold up if he gets isolated versus, we'll say like a Luther Burden, okay? Or we'll say, versus a Jeremiah Smith. Just throwing out names that y'all understand. That's what we're talking about because that's what's going to come in the playoffs. And I think that that's still yet to be seen. Now, in last night's live stream, if y'all missed it, we talked about Will Brooks' pick six. And I said, I think that he was in the wrong spot, but that was actually cover three. After I went back and watched the film, I saw that it was cover three and he was in the correct spot because he's supposed to be playing curl to flat. That's exactly where he was at. And listen, whenever you do the right things, the ball does tend to find you. So I'm happy for him. I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for all of our guys. I am a Tennessee fan. Y'all should know that by now. I love all of our guys, guys and gals, whatever. If you are a Tennessee Vol, if you are a Tennessee Vol, I have love for you. So I'm rooting for him. I think that he is a great story. Obviously, his teammates love him. So don't get that twisted. Don't take it wrong like I think that he can't play or something like that because that's not the case. But it's still yet to be seen how is he going to handle if he gets isolated one-on-one versus some of these better athletes. I don't think that he proved that last night with that interception. I don't think that any of that proves it. He was playing in a zone coverage, and it was an underneath coverage that he was playing in. So that's just kind of like, that's part of my point is that if you don't trust him to play some of the deeper coverages or to play man, then guess what the offense is going to know, especially if they've got a week or two to get ready for you. They're going to know, okay, if Will Brooks is out there, playing coverage versus this look, we know that he's going to be the underneath guy. So we're going to be focusing on targeting, this guy, that guy, that guy. It's easier for you to dissect what we're doing on defense. And I know that that's a little bit more intricate and it's deeper, but I want to make sure that we're all on the same page with that moving forward. But overall, y'all, I think that our safeties play well. I think that both of those guys, obviously, they had a really good game. I think that Kobe Thomas came in. He played well. Saw some of our young guys coming in, playing well. Also, John Slaughter, all of them. I mean, I think that our safeties looked really, really good about 90% of the time. So I would give them a very solid A for their performance, not just in coverage, not just in knowing what to do, but also coming down, filling their lanes, all that. We missed a couple of tackles, we missed a couple of fits, but coming downhill, that's not necessarily a safety specialty. I'm more so concerned about, are you willing to get down there? Are you flying with your hair on fire? And I think that our guys definitely did that. Now let's talk about the star position. I think that both of those guys, Boo Carter and Christian Harrison, played well. They came up. It's like they understood what to do. They might have missed a couple of tackles. There wasn't perfect there. But yeah, I think that they played with the proper leverage. Also feel like that one play that was drawn up specifically for Boo Carter that NC State did. I mean, obviously they had been, waiting on that one, the perfect down and distance, all that good stuff where they get into this weird set, this weird formation, all that, just to get Boo Carter isolated with their best player. That's a very hard route to cover. It's almost impossible. But I think that Boo Carter did a good job of at least making that tackle. So you have to feel good about your true freshman going out there and making a play like that. Pretty much outside of that, man, I think that they played very, very solid. I'm going to give them a solid B. So now let's move on to our cornerbacks. I think that, man, they played lights out. Jamal McCoy is shut down. Ricky Gibson is shut down, especially given the different types of coverages that they were playing in. And they also played like dogs. I saw them kind of throwing bodies around, coming up, being physical, stuff like that. That's so important because, man, like whenever you have your cornerbacks who are pretty much looked at as maybe the least physical players on your team, whenever they're being physical, that should tell you a whole lot about your team. But I think that they looked really good. That one pass interference call on Ricky Gibson, that was an absolute and total joke. I would love to get that crew down or whoever threw that penalty, and I would love to, play a clip of that side by side with every single play that Georgia's secondary has had over the past 3 or 4 seasons and say, okay, tell me why what Georgia's doing is not a penalty and why what we did is a penalty. That was literally beautiful. Anytime that you stay on top of a route and you push a guy all the way out of bounds with one arm, okay, that is textbook coverage. So I think that we have 2 lockdown, shutdown cornerbacks. Also, man, J-Man coming in, he looked really, really good in coverage, coming up, making plays, things like that. He looked really good. I would give our cornerbacks a solid A plus for their performance last night. Now let's flip it on over to the offensive side of the football, starting off up front. Offensive line looked beautiful. I mean, just getting down the field, on the second level, sometimes third level, making great blocks in our running game, but also, man, pass protection was lights out all night. Now, some of it was with extra guys into block. We talked about that 12 personnel. Sometimes we had two tight ends still sitting in there to block and a running back. So, that's part of the reason that it looked as good as it did. But I'm fine with that. As long as they're holding up, that's cool. Also, man, we see them, driving people all the way over to their sideline and just dropping them. So that's big. Again, playing bully ball, man. I saw Andre Carrick, man, pushing around 10 and stuff, kind of after the whistle just a little bit. But they are enforcers. Very, very proud of them. For the most part, it was very, very clean. Now, there was a few times that the blocking wasn't perfect, especially on Nico's second interception. It looked like right there, Spraggs just kind of gave up some speed to his outside. Got to be better there. I would say that interception was about 80% on Spraggs and maybe about 20% on Nico. But either way, man, I would give our offensive line a solid A minus. I would say, still some stuff that we need to get fixed, but I feel very confident with us moving forward versus any front that we're going to see throughout the course of this season. Now let's talk about our tight ends. I think that they looked really, really good, especially in blocking. Period. Whether it's run blocking, whether it's pass blocking. There was a couple of plays. Actually, I want to say it might have been D. Samp who scored on this one, where as we had talked about before, man, getting to that two tight end set, kind of pulling guys around. We had a tight end blocking down. I want to say that was Kittelman. Gets to the second level and he's blocking a linebacker. Then we have Holden Stays coming around and gets to the third level at a safety. And man, just a huge hole for D. Samp to run through. So great job there. And also just going out making plays as pass catchers, man. Beautiful job. I want to say that we had two tight ends score touchdowns. And really, Miles Kittelman should have had two. Of course, we had an offensive lineman down the field, which I don't fault them too much for that. That's kind of hard to do on plays when Nico's scrambling. You just kind of engaged and you don't really recognize where you're at on the field, but maybe we can clean that up some. But I think that on that play, really nice job by Kittelman of just being aware and getting to the open spot on the field and then Nico find them. So I love what our tight ends did, man. I would give them, I would say a solid A. A couple of things, maybe just a few blocks that we could have did a little bit better with our body placement with. But yeah, I would say very solid A from all those guys. Also, Ethan Davis looked good on the catches that he had, just getting open. And actually, with Holden Stays on his touchdown, that's one of the exact same plays that he scored on with Notre Dame on NC State last season. Next, let's talk about our running backs. D. Samp is a dog. Beautiful job, just being patient, setting up his blocks, exploding through. Just fighting through tackles, falling forward, getting as much as he could possibly get. I'm so proud of him. I think that he's going to turn into a household name as well. He deserves a lot more credit than he gets. He is an NFL running back, and he's going to be special, I think, for a very long time. I'm expecting for him to have a monster season for us. I also feel like Bishop came in and looked a lot like D. Samp, just in being patient, setting things up, running hard, fighting for those extra yards. Super proud of him. Don't know what's going on with Cam Seldon. Hopefully he will be able to come back at some point, but I would still say just based off of whatever his injury is, I think it's an upper body deal. I don't know if it's the same shoulder, whatever it is, but I would say we can hold him out because I feel like we do have a good stable of running backs that are ready to rock and roll. Now, as far as Peyton Lewis and Keith, they ran a lot more behind like the second and third string line, so they didn't look as productive, but I do trust those guys as well. Hopefully next week versus Kent State, they can get a little bit more confidence, get them into the game pretty early, and just let them see what it feels like whenever you've got an offensive line really, making those holes open up for you. So I think that they'll be fine. Running backs look good catching the football out of the backfield. Whole lot of that shuttle pass, which, that's something new. I know that we're setting something up with that for sure, probably for the Oklahoma game because we've ran it so much. But it looked like NC State was actually sitting on that, and we were still making plays. So, again, going back to D. Sam, just being a playmaker. He's definitely one of the biggest playmakers on this team. Super proud of that room. I'm really only going to be grading the first two because it wouldn't be fair for me to throw Peyton Lewis and Keith into this mix. I'm going to give the first two, I'm going to say a very solid A, close to an A+. The only reason it's not going to be an A+ is going to be just because D. Samp did kind of miss the gap. He kind of ran backwards on one play. And for it to be an A+ in my mind, it's got to be perfect. It was not perfect just because of that one play, but I think that D. Samp more than made up for that. So we're going to give the running back group a solid A. Now on to Nico Iamale-Ava. What's his grade going to look like? Well, I think that he played well for the most part, man, just managing and operating our offense. I would say about 85% of the time, he just took what the defense gave to him. Now, on his first interception, he was kind of forcing it. So as we just kind of talked about, in that 12 personnel, sometimes we had as many as 8 people in there blocking for Nico. And if I'm not mistaken, on that play, it was probably 8 people blocking, and it looked like NC State dropped at least 7. So we only have 2 guys going out for passes right there. So the windows weren't really there for Nico to try to fit it into. So on the front side of it, you hate that he threw that pick just because that can cost us, in the playoff games and championship games, things like that. We just can't have those types of errors. I think that Nico gets that at this point. I don't think he's going to make the same mistake twice. Even Coach Heupel has talked about that. But on the backside of it, you love the confidence in himself and in his teammates to be able to thread that needle. And that's a throw, y'all. That window was so tight that, I mean, maybe 1% of the people walking around on the face of this planet would have been able to make that throw. And that includes NFL players. That was an extremely tight window, and it was almost there. Either way, you know that Nico has very great arm talent and that he can get things done. Now, as far as that second interception, that was mostly on Sprague, just because obviously Nico's arm does get hit. But at the same time, Nico probably could have and should have stepped up into the pocket. So that's something that I'm sure that Coach Heupel, Coach Halsley, everyone that's involved with that will tell him. I think that Nico's going to get that moving forward. Again, don't expect for things like that to be happening again. Might have been better for him to maybe even just use his legs to run, maybe extend the play just a little bit. But we're going to be fine with Nico moving forward. Again, I think that he did a really nice job just of taking advantage of whatever the defense was giving to him, making plays with his legs, running through tackles. It's kind of setting the tone and getting in people's face. I was very happy and proud to see his teammates backing him up with all that. So, man, this team just plays with a really good attitude. And a lot of that is going to start up front on the line of scrimmage. But if your quarterback is playing physical like that, you know that everyone else is going to be doing the exact same thing. I would give Nico in this game a solid, I'm going to call it a B, just because you can't give anything higher than that if you throw 2 interceptions and one is a pick six. Again, even though the pick six wasn't his fault, I think that he's going to be just fine moving forward, and expecting some really, really big things from him over the next couple of weeks, especially versus Oklahoma. At the end of the day, y'all, this team played very well, but there still is some room for improvement everywhere. Y'all let me know y'all's thoughts down in the comment section about, what y'all saw from this team. If y'all got to kind of watch the game over, or even just what you saw live, let me know how you feel about it down in the comment section. As always, thank you for sticking all the way to the end. Please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share it with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. We'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.